Hello again, everyone. Robert Schwarztrauber here, PhotoshopTipCards.com with Photoshop Fun with Filters. Today I want to talk about a neat way to express yourself artistically and get familiar with some of the interesting features of Photoshop that you may not use otherwise. Oftentimes we get so busy trying to do the detailed work of editing our photos that we forget that there's a lot of fun that can be had with Photoshop as well. And by doing some of the fun stuff, you can also learn some great tips and techniques that help you in your more serious work. So let's dig right in today, and I'll show you how we create interesting graphics like these, and we let Photoshop do all the work for us, so that cuts down a lot on the frustration. We'll get rid of that, and I'll show you how we begin. Just go to File, New, and we'll get a dialog box here, and I like to do mine in a square format. You can do it in any format you want, so I just choose 12 by 12. That's a good size. If you're doing it just for your computer screen and just to have fun, a resolution of 100 is good. If you want to pick a different size that may be more suitable for printing, you might want to go to 300. That will slow you down a little bit as you're working though, so I'm just going to stay with 100 for our on-screen presentation, and we're going to say OK. Now I've got a new blank canvas here to do my artwork on, and the way we're going to start is, since this is Photoshop Fun with Filters, we're going to go right to Filters, and we're going to choose Render, Clouds. I see I have a black and white kind of cloud thing going on here, and that's because I had my foreground and background colors set to black and white. If you have two other contrasting colors, that'll work as well. But we're going to colorize it a little bit later, so I'm just going to start with the black and white. So now we have our cloud base. Next thing we're going to do is go back to Filter, and we'll go to Pixelate, Mesotint, and you can see we get this strange kind of thing going on here. And that's using short strokes, and that's what we're going to use for this tutorial. But you can use any of the options that are down in here. I find that the dots do not work very well, so try and stay with some of the lines or strokes: short lines, medium lines, long lines, short strokes, medium strokes, long strokes. It all depends on what effect you want to get later on, and that's the point of this. Just play with it and see what looks good for you. Today we're going to stay with short strokes. Say OK. And you'll see it turned our clouds into this sort of scratchy mess here. But that's okay, we're going to fix that. We're going to go back to Filter, go to Blur, Radial Blur. And you have a couple choices here too. There's a Spin Blur, and there's a Zoom Blur, which is what we want. And you can also vary the amount that it blurs. We want to go to Maximum Blur, and we also want the maximum quality, the best quality. So we'll say OK. And Photoshop will take care of blurring that out for us and create this cool kind of effect. We're going to do that one more time because we want it a little bit smoother. So go to Filter, Blur, Radial Blur again, same settings, and say OK. You ever played with a spirograph as a kid? It's kind of similar to that, except you don't have any moving parts to lose or pens to run out of ink. So here we've got our kind of blurred background, and from that what we're going to do is create a new layer exactly the same. We're going to go to Control J to duplicate your layer. You can duplicate the layer a number of different ways. That's Control J is my favorite way of doing it. Now that we have two layers, we're going to go back to Filter, and we're going to distort this one a little bit using the twirl. So you're going to go to Filter, Distort, and Twirl. And for this one we're going to set this at about 120. You don't have to be exact, you can play with it. 136, 115, 126 say. And then we'll say OK. Now we're going to go and change our blend mode on this one to lighten. And you can see we've already got a little bit of a swirl effect going there, but we're going to enhance that a little bit. Go back to your background layer. We're going to do the same thing. Go to Filter, Distort, Twirl. Only this time we're going to go in the opposite direction. We're going to go back this way, and we're going to set that at about 180, 186, close enough. Say OK. Now I see we got this cool kind of swirly thing going on here. But I told you we were going to colorize it, so that's what we'll do now. We'll go to, as long as we get our background going, we'll go to Image, Adjustments, Hue Saturation. And you'll see you get your hue saturation sliders that come up here. And what we're going to do is check the box that's marked Colorize. And you'll see we get a little bit of a tint going on. Now we want to increase the intensity of that tint, so we're just going to slide our saturation up. And by using the hue, you can change the color of that particular layer. Now I'm going to stay with, well, we'll go with green. And now for our next layer, we're going to, oops, I lost it there somewhere. Where'd you go? Come back. There you are. Okay, we're going to say, yeah, as long as I have an opportunity, I'm going to change it back to red. Okay, say okay. Now we're going to go to our other layer. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to Image, Adjustment, Hue Saturation, and we're going to check the Colorize box again. Be sure you do that or you won't get much effect. Now we're going to move our saturation back up, and you can see the whole thing getting deeper and richer. And you could leave it all, both layers is the same color if you want, but if you want some alternating colors coming in there, you can see we got oranger, a little bit more yellowy, more green, a little turquoise, a little darker blue. Now we're going to go back to the pinkish ones again. Well, come somewhere around here where the bluish tints are. We'll say right there. Let's say OK. Now I've got those two layers with their swirly effects and tints going on there, but I want to create something of a graphic in the middle here. You could leave it like this as a background or a card or anything, but I'm going to create a little bit of a graphic to go on there. So I'm going to come to create a new layer. Now I have a new layer on top, and what I'm going to do is merge these two layers together so that they're on one. And rather than lose them by merging down, I'm just going to combine them together using a new layer and Control-Alt-Shift-E. And that puts everything on a new layer. See, I have exactly the same thing as if I turned it off or turned it on. But now they're both on the same layer. And what I'm going to do with that layer is create a graphic on there by using the Move tool. And I'm just going to put some guidelines. If you drag from the ruler here, click and then drag, you can put some guide marks on your work to help you along. They won't print out if you were to print it from here, but they do help you do your work. Now I'm going to create a circle effect in there with the elliptical marquee tool. You could use a rectangle if you want to. You can use ovals or anything, but I want an exact circle, so what I'm going to do is bring my cursor right to the middle, hold down the Alt and Shift key, and what that'll do is I drag my mouse now is it'll create a perfect circle from the point that I chose. And it's just about the size I want, and then release the mouse and everything else. And now I have a selection of a circle. Now what I'm going to do is Layer, New, Layer via Copy. Now you can see I have that isolated all by itself, but since it's the same as everything else, you can't really see it. So I'm going to go to the blend modes and change it to multiply. Now you can see a little bit better my selection that I have there. But I'm not finished yet. I could use this to create a globe or kind of a world effect if I wanted to, but I'm going to create a ring. So what I'm going to do is come back to my marquee tool, hold it to the center again, Alt and Shift to draw it perfectly from the center, and go out to about there. And now I'm going to do is just hit delete, and it'll take out the center of my ring. And select, deselect, just to show the ring and get rid of the dancing answer. Now that's it. It's kind of boring just the way it is, so I'm going to go to right click to get to my blending options. And what I'm going to choose here is a bevel. And to get to your bevel options, go to the wording and just double click on that, and that opens up a new dialog box here where you can change the effects of your blending. And what I'm going to do is go to the size, and you'll see as I move that in, it goes from more of a flat and creates more of a rounded effect on there. And I can go past it, or I want some with good shadows on there to kind of separate it, and I can smooth out that effect. Doesn't have too much effect here, but I'll just say OK. And now you see I've introduced a ring to my artwork here with the swirling effects kind of rolling right through it. But I can increase that rolling through illusion by taking my ring and hold and drag that down and put it between the two layers. And now you see it's there. This is overriding everything, so I'm going to get rid of that. Okay. So now I've actually put it between the two layers, and you can see it kind of hidden in the fog and the mist there. And if I want to increase that effect, because I'm on multiply, the more layers that I create of this, the more I multiply the effect. So if I on that layer, I can do Control J again, and I've duplicated that, and you can see it got darker. Do it again, it got darker. And you can just come in and play with that, and you can change any of these blend modes. You can make this one lighter, maybe you want it lighter. Maybe that helps your effect. Maybe you want a color burn. Maybe that's more what you're looking for. You can even get crazy with difference and exclusion. You can see what all these different effects do for your picture. You create normal, you can create dissolve, and maybe you want more of a speckly effect on there. But you can do all sorts of creative things with that. And even once you've got a layer there, maybe you don't want it right exactly on top of the other one. Maybe you want to drag that one off. Maybe you want to come down to this one, since that's also a copy of that layer. Maybe drag that one off too. I don't know. You get to choose. It's your work here. Maybe you don't like them at all. You just come in and delete that layer. Say yes. Delete this layer too. Say yes. Now we're back to our original one, and we can work with that. We can play with it. We can change the effects. Maybe we don't like this one as lighten. Maybe we like it as screen. Maybe we like it as darken. Just come in and play around, and maybe overlay is what you want. The more you work with it, the more you get familiar with the different layers and levels and different filter effects. You can still create different filters on top of filters on top of filters in here. Just play around, get familiar with it. It's kind of a good way to blow off steam and have a little fun, and also learn about Photoshop in the process. Hope you enjoyed this video. Go out and create some cool art for yourself. Robert Schwarztrauber, PhotoshopTipCards.com. Thanks.